Right everyone, it is Finn here and welcome back to another Premier League prediction video where today we're going to be talking about every game coming your way in Premier League Matchweek 11. Now ladies and gentlemen, just a tiny bit of a heads up, Premier League Matchweek 11, it's going to be a big one. I know I say that in literally the beginning of every single prediction video. Well, first of all, it would be a pretty dull selling point if I describe this match week as a boring one coming up ahead. You've got to be smart about those kinds of things. And second of all, we've got some huge games coming up. Man City versus Liverpool, which is always a pretty big deal. Newcastle versus Man United. Everton versus Spurs. All of those and so many other big games coming your way in Premier League Match Week 11.
I mean, then look at this then. I can't imagine a more beautiful thing.
And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I did get a few video clips of Max Goodwin and in terms of his predictions for the upcoming match week. It's always nice to get someone else's opinions to see whether they align with yours, especially in terms of predictions. So if you do want to check out Max's channel, much like Nottingham Forest on the Premier League table, you have to look down below. I'm sorry, Max, that was a tiny bit harsh. Now jumping into game number 1 for Premier League Match Week 11, we have Brentford versus Brighton. Now yes, I understand that some people do suffer from bee allergies, but at the moment it seems like the bees are suffering from a goal conceding allergy, conceding 8 goals in their last 3 games. And as much as I do like this Brentford team, I do think versus Brighton, who seem to be very good up front this season, they might struggle, and I do think that the Seagulls are taking this one home. Unfortunately, they've just lost from their squad the likes of Mopé due to heart problems. I say lost, he hasn't passed away, but unfortunately had to retire at the very young age of 24. He will be missed from this team, but at the end of the day, there's just so much quality still left in this Brighton team. And I mean, they've only lost 2 games this season. They've been brilliant, and I don't expect anything less than 3 points here. Leicester City versus Crystal Palace is next, a very interesting matchup. And before I give you my beautiful predictions, which I'm sure you're all awaiting for,
I'm kind of a big deal.
Take it away, Max.
Right, here is my predictions for the upcoming week of Premier League matches. I think Crystal Palace are going to pick up a win against Leicester, pile of pressure on Brendan Rodgers, probably a 1-0 or a 2-1. I do like the Palace squad at the moment. They should be doing better than they are.
Thank you very much, Max. I think I tend to agree with the majority of the things you said there. I feel like if any team is going to win this, it will be Crystal Palace. But the reality is, I don't know if there will be a win in this game. I know it might come across as a shock result to some, especially considering Leicester City's form. But I feel like this could be a 1-1 draw. I know Leicester City have only won 1 game in 9. I know they've conceded 12 in their last 3 games, 4 goals on average per game. It is shocking, especially looking at Crystal Palace. They have been brilliant this season. But at the end of the day, looking at Leicester City, looking at a player like James Maddison specifically, he is fighting so hard to get into this England team, although I feel like the more he tries to get into Gareth Southgate's vision, the more Gareth Southgate slowly turns away.
I cannot see you, that way you cannot see me, I am hidden.
But at the end of the day, we know Leicester City have quality. Eventually they're going to start getting more points, and versus a team like Crystal Palace, it is very likely, although once again, not guaranteed. We then have Fulham versus Bournemouth next. Now once again, a very interesting matchup, as these 2 teams were promoted from the Championship together last season. And looking at both of these 2 teams, who's going to end up taking the points? Well, I'm going to be honest here, I'm kind of sitting on the fence looking at Bournemouth. 5 games unbeaten since sacking Scott Parker. I have got no idea how that happened, but at the end of the day, Bournemouth can be very proud of themselves. Looking at Fulham, they've had a good start to the season as well, unfortunately lost 3-1 to West Ham United last time around. They really struggled to break West Ham United's defense down, and that hugely goes down to the fact that they are missing Mitrovic from injury. I mean, I really do like this Fulham team, but without Mitrovic they do seem to struggle, and with the solid form that they've been in lately, I might give Bournemouth another win, which I didn't see coming. Which, can we just talk about the fact that Bournemouth being above Liverpool, especially after that 9-0 win, I mean, that it is a thing of beauty. We then have the almighty Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Forest next, and as Nottingham Forest is good old Max's team, I'm going to let him talk about them.
Wolves versus Forest, I'm going to go for an away win for the Reds. I think we're going to pick up a 1-0 or a 2-1 win against a pretty solid Wolves side, although they have just sacked Bruno Lage. No new manager coming in. We did well to pick up a 1-1 draw against Villa at the City Ground on Monday. So yeah, 1-0 or a 2-1 for Forest against Wolves.
Once again, I tend to agree with a lot of the things you are saying. I really do like this Wolves team, but 3 goals so far in the entirety of the Premier League season.
Pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Just isn't good enough. I know they brought in Diego Costa, but once again, he hasn't started scoring yet. And until that happens, looking at Nottingham Forest, looking at the total intensity they had versus Villa, I do like this Nottingham Forest team. I do believe they are heading in the right direction. And I'm actually also going to give them a 1-0 win. I do feel like Forest could take the points. We then have a huge game coming up with Tottenham Hotspurs versus Everton. Once again, I did get the opinion of good old Max. Let's see what he says.
Spurs versus Everton. I think Spurs will start to get some momentum back after that loss in the North London derby. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win against Frank Lampard's Everton, who have been better since the opening weeks of the season, but are still a pretty boring team to watch.
Thank you once again, Max. I feel like once again I tend to agree with everything that you said. I think looking at Tottenham Hotspurs, they should have no excuse but to win this one. I feel like it has potential to be a close one, but at the end of the day, Spurs should win this one, no problem. It would be very Spursy of them to lose a game like this. But only one loss in the Premier League. Once again, as we know, they've got quality throughout their team. Looking at Everton though, only losing one game in their last 7, it's almost unheard of for Everton. I can't remember when Everton were in form like this. I know they recently lost to Man United, and trust me, as a Manchester United fan, I was terrified of Everton at stages of that game. I mean, can we talk about the fact that Casemiro has the highest physical rating in FIFA 23? I mean, that man was absolutely bullied off the ball for that one goal. But at the end of the day, I really like this Everton team. I think Iwobi has really been a huge part to why they've hit a whole new level. But versus Tottenham Hotspurs, I do think Spurs will take it. Villa versus Chelsea is next. Now, once again, this isn't a game that I'm going to spend too much time on. Looking at Villa, they have been heavily underwhelming so far this season, not taking points where they've had to be. They've had very spineless kinds of performances, if I can say that. And looking under a Chelsea team that's been put under a whole new spell by good old Harry Potter, I do feel like this Chelsea team looks like a whole new team under Graham. And I do think, once again, I wouldn't expect anything but a strong win here. Now, talking about dominant performances, the next game might just be that as well, as we have Leeds United versus Arsenal. Now, I hate to say it about Leeds United, but they had such a good start to this Premier League season, but over the last few games, they've just been losing way too many points if you look historically between them and Arsenal. Arsenal are the better team with 3 wins and 1 draw, 0 Leeds United wins. And looking at Arsenal this season, bar that loss to Manchester United, yay, they have been absolutely terrific this season. I can't really fault them. And versus Leeds United, although Leeds can be very quick in attack, I expect at least a 3-1 win in the Gunners' favour. I mean, I can't believe that Pep Guardiola got so bored of winning the Premier League that he built Mikel Arteta, gave Arsenal a few players so that he could finally have someone to compete for the Premier League title. Next up, we have my team, Manchester United versus Newcastle United. Now, once again, I know Max had 1 or 2 things to say about this game, so let's listen.
Manchester United versus Newcastle. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw between the Magpies and the Red Devils.
How dare you!
I think this is probably going to be one of the more entertaining games from this game week. Both teams who can score goals, both teams who are capable of conceding goals. I think this will be a pretty fun one to watch.
Thank you very, very much, Max. I think one thing I totally agree on is the fact that we can't seem to stop conceding goals as of late. But I don't know whether I agree in terms of a draw. Obviously, I mean, I'll always be biased towards my team. But I do think Manchester United should win this one, although Newcastle United have been looking brilliant. In their previous game, that 5-1 win, I would say that looked like a Premier League title challenging kind of win. They were almost flawless in a game like that. As we know, Newcastle United are on the rise as a football club. But versus Man United, although I do expect us to concede because it's become the norm at this point, I do think United will still win it. We've seen some very solid performances this season. Hopefully we get the 3 points. Second final game of the video will be Southampton versus West Ham. Now, once again, I hate to say it to the Saints, but I have a very, very obvious favourite here, as it just has to be West Ham United, and I'm expecting, I'm going to put down a 2-0 win. As we know, Southampton, I've said on many occasions, Hassan Hutel is building a really, really good team, but performance-wise, they just have not been there as of late, recently losing 4-0 to Man City, although that could happen to anyone nowadays. But versus West Ham, a team that hasn't been bad this season, they've just been lacking results, but in their last 2 games, they've been getting those results, 2 wins in a row. And I think with their current confidence, with the players that are in form at the team, I do expect West Ham United to get the points. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, takes us to our final game of Premier League Matchweek 11, and it is the big one, the best for last, Liverpool versus Man City. Now, as we know historically, this is a huge game in the Premier League, well, especially over the last 5 or so years. Once again, before I jump into my very strong opinion about who will win this, let's listen to Max.
Finally, the big one, Man City versus Liverpool. I'm going to go for a City win. I think they're going to blow Liverpool out of the water. Injuries to Trent and Matip, poor form from the Reds in general, and City looking easily like the best team on the planet right now. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win, but it could be a cricket score.
And for the final time of the video, thank you very, very much, Max. As I said, guys, don't forget to check out his link to his channel in the description down below. But looking at Liverpool versus Man City, once again, I tend to agree. I think Man City probably are the strong favourites here. The only team unbeaten at the moment in the Premier League. As we know, Man City, definitely the most dominant team in world football. And versus a Liverpool team struggling with a lot of injuries, especially form, I feel like it could be a very ugly result. I like how Max said a 3-0 win in Man City's favour as kind of the kind option to Man City, thinking it could be way more dominant. And unfortunately for Liverpool, I tend to agree. I think Man City could take this one 3-1. I think Liverpool could get one back here. As we saw, they got a very, very dominant win versus Rangers in the Champions League. Once again, I don't know what to make about Liverpool. They've been awful all season. They get a super dominant win versus Bournemouth. They do awful the rest of the season, get a super dominant win versus Rangers. And once again, I just have no idea what to make of this Liverpool team. Once again, I am starting to question whether Jurgen Klopp will lose his job soon. I know he's done great things for this club, but at the end of the day, it is a job that is based on results. Liverpool haven't getting results, so I am slightly worried. But ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much it for my Premier League Matchweek 11 predictions. Once again, I hope that you guys did enjoy. I hope that you guys do subscribe to myself. It helps myself out massively, along with subscribing to Max. Once again, let's see if we can help him out as well. Make sure to check his channel out. But guys, this has been Finn, FY Dublin. The Premier League, it is going to be a big match week. Let's see what happens.